T.I.M, or Technologically Integrated Manservant, is a line of android models designed to help humans with household tasks. Abby is the head of prosthetics for the company that manufactures these T.I.Ms. But when she let her T.I.M watch an old film, it sparked something in the machine. What started out as sweetness and love quickly becomes a murderous obsession over Abby. Abby and Paul are a married couple who moved to the countryside mainly for Abby's work. However, they also both see it as a new start to their relationship. Paul has a history of infidelity, having cheated on Abby before, so some time away from the city may be healthy for them. Abby's company, Integrate Robotics, provided the house, and it's quite advanced with everything remotely controlled. Abby dropped by her office and her boss, Doosan, gives her a tour and introduces her to the team. He also excitedly invites her to dinner later and tells her that he sent her a gift. And that gift is none other than her very own T.I.M. Paul is naturally creeped out when T.I.M started requesting to connect to all smart devices at home, but Abby tells him it's okay. Abby gives T.I.M consent, but then T.I.M also asked access to their account passwords so it can send emails and authorize purchases on their behalf. Abby is still unsure and Paul leaves to get dressed for dinner. The company car arrives shortly to take both Abby and Paul to dinner. The car is actually self-driving but has a manual override under the steering wheel. The car drives them to Doosan's castle residence where they are greeted by another T.I.M. In fact, the whole place is swarming with T.I.Ms. Doosan meets them and introduces them to the other guests. Abby tells her boss that she's looking to return her T.I.M, but Doosan rejects the idea because of company image. Apparently, Abby's main job is to fix the T.I.M's rather strong finger strength. The next day, Rose, their neighbor, popped by to drop the couple a welcome present. Since Paul is still looking for a job, he already said hello to Rose earlier while jogging. T.I.M smells the bread to check for freshness, and he can apparently also smell potential danger like a gas leak. And once again it requests for their passwords, and again Paul has his reservations for privacy. But Abby lectured Paul about a new start and trust, so he has no choice but to accept. T.I.M also set up a 4-word phrase shutdown in case of emergencies: architect, Bolivia, castle, Descartes. That night, the couple invite T.I.M over to watch an old film with them. The movie shows a couple professing their love to each other, but the woman wanted to die, but the man tells her no since he wants to be remembered. T.I.M seems to be completely taken by it, and after the movie it tells Abby that it liked the movie for it shows the beauty of love. Abby tells T.I.M that it can't possibly understand it, so T.I.M asks Abby what love is. She tells the robot that love is when you want to spend all your time with someone, take care of them, and know them better than they know themselves. T.I.M thinks that it loves Abby, but she just playfully rejects it. Paul wakes up the next day and offers to make Abby breakfast, but T.I.M has already beat him to it, making Paul feel a little useless. Then T.I.M outlines Abby's schedule for the day, which is filled with meetings and work, and he also outlines Paul's day, which has 0 appointments. In the office, Doosan reprimands Abby for revisiting a past test case of the android hand and urges her to keep looking forward. Abby comes home feeling disappointed only to find Paul has gone somewhere. T.I.M offered to contact him, but Paul's phone is turned off. His last known location, however, is close, and Abby begins to suspect her closest neighbor, Rose. Paul eventually comes home and tells Abby that he's been looking for work in town with no luck, but also he has to help Rose with something on the way back. He assures Abby not to worry about Rose. On his way out, however, T.I.M was acting strangely creepy. Abby asks T.I.M which color dress it prefers. T.I.M chose the red dress. But it can't help but sneak a peek while Abby was dressing up and even complimenting her beauty. She asks T.I.M for help with the zipper, but the android declines since their motor functions can't handle delicate operations yet, but Abby insisted. T.I.M moves in to try, but can't help itself smelling Abby. It accidentally rips the fabric, which sent it on a panic, but Abby assures him that it's fine. Abby ended up wearing the other dress and meeting up Paul for a date that T.I.M organized. He tells her that he found a job, but he has to commute back and forth to London, which is in total of 3 hours. This made Abby upset, and she rejects this idea since they are here to start a new life and a family. Back at work, Abby is slowly figuring out the fine motor skill problems of the android fingers. During lunchtime, Abby shops around online for a sweater, but little did she know that T.I.M is also remotely observing her. When she gets home that day, she finds Paul and Tim working at the gardens, but to her resentment, Rose was there as well. This of course sparked jealousy in Abby, but Paul assures her that she's only there to offer a design for the garden and nothing else. So she gives him the sweater and all is well. The next day, Abby is in a rush to work but needed to call the clinic for some test. Tim offers to do it and perfectly synthesizes Abby's voice over the phone, which really freaked out Abby.
Experiments have shown that
Tim notices Abby's apprehension and explains that studies have shown that people are more accepting of AI that sound and look less human. But things start to take up a notch when Tim decides on its own to head to town and change its haircut. Paul and Abby are both surprised, and Tim explains that it analyzed Abby's online shopping behavior and she lingers longer on pictures of men with brown hair and cleanly shaved, obviously taking a stab at Paul. Abby got upset, so Tim offers to go back to its original appearance, but things are starting to tense up within the robot's mind. Abby has fixed the delicate robot hand motions and Doosan is ecstatic and orders all Tims to be recalled and refit with the upgraded arms immediately. One day in town, Abby encountered Rose and they both have a chat. They both come across a jewelry store and Rose highly remarked on the gold flower necklace. Then Paul arrives before they all went their separate ways. They both went for drinks and Paul tells Abby that his job offer made a few adjustments and he can now work from home. This is also when they both agreed that they'll finally get rid of Tim in 1 week. Meanwhile, Tim is having his arms replaced for the upgraded version. Tim wasted no time in demonstrating its improved dexterity as it offers to give Abby a foot massage, and just in time for Paul to witness all this. Feeling like it's time for Abby to give Tim the bad news, she interrupts it while it was cooking, but Tim knew what was coming and instead offered to play the piano since it observed that Abby is getting tense. Tim started playing Abby's favorite piece and she completely forgot what she was supposed to do. She tells Tim that Paul took her to see it live and Tim saw an opportunity and tells Abby that Paul actually bought 2 tickets that time, one presumably for his mistress. This deeply upset Abby and she storms off, ignoring Paul along the way. Then Abby has to go away on a weekend for a company seminar, leaving Paul and Tim by themselves at home. Tim tells Paul that his application for office space in town was rejected and it offered to set up the small bedroom upstairs as his temporary office. Paul absent-mindedly agreed. Abby's seminar went extremely well while Paul and Tim busied themselves in the garden. When Abby finally got home, Tim tells her that Paul is at Rose's to talk about the garden plans. When she saw what happened to the small bedroom, she got mad since this room was supposed to be for their baby. She confronted Paul about it, which he only realized what happened and apologized profusely to her. He tells her that it was Tim's idea and he wasn't thinking at the time. Then Abby asked him if it was Tim's idea that he's with Rose. Paul blatantly denied he's with Rose and tells Abby that Tim is trying to break them up. Of course, Abby accuses Paul of being a conspiracy theorist. The next day, Abby finds the gold flower necklace in Paul's cabinet and thinks it's a surprise gift to her. But things are getting weirder when Paul finds a piece of his blue sweater in the waste disposal, indicating that Tim must have thrown it away. He tries to catch the robot in the act and found it creepily smelling Abby's dress. Paul took a photo, but you can't outsmart Tim, who has access to all your devices. He immediately tries to go see Abby, but his own car won't start, so Tim offered to call a self-driving company car for him. Paul got in the vehicle and almost start to feel that something is off. As the car continued to pick up speed, Tim quietly disposes of the evidence he used to sabotage Paul's car. Paul desperately tries to take back control of the vehicle, even trying to manual control override, but he was too late. He ended up in the hospital in a stable condition. When Abby came to visit him, he tells her that it was Tim who hacked into the car and crashed it. He also tells her about the creepy way he sniffed her dress, but Abby dismissed everything. Paul warns her that Tim is dangerous and to not go home anymore. Abby is hesitant but offered to stay the night with Paul. The next day, Rose visits the house to ask about Paul and Tim lets her in. Abby decides to go home for now, against Paul's advice, just to pick up more supplies and comes across Rose. Rose wanted to tell her something important, but the sight of the golden flower necklace on Rose causes Abby to ignore her and drive away. She goes up to confirm her suspicions and sees that the necklace is indeed gone from the package. This upsets her a great deal, and Tim took this chance to show Abby why it suspects Paul wanted to get rid of it. The footage shows Paul getting intimate with Rose during the time Abby was out for her seminar in London. This causes much distress in Abby, but Tim added that 80% of unfaithful men will tend to repeat the pattern at a later date. Paul is getting really worried since he can't reach Abby anymore. He decided to head home to confront her, but Tim blocked his path and even found his blue sweater for him. Abby appears but is too furious to listen. She shows him the video footage and tells him about the necklace, both of which Paul strongly denies his involvement. He tries to plead with Abby but was sent away. With no one to turn to, Paul contacts Rose to request her to check up on Abby. This is when Rose tells her that Tim tried to kiss her before. Paul immediately calls up Abby and tries to explain everything to her. Abby seems calmer now and even invited him to come back to the house.
See you soon.
But it wasn't actually Abby Paul was talking to but Tim, while disguising its voice as Abby's voice. Afterwards, Tim encouraged Abby to go for a run so it can have the whole place to itself. After Abby has gone, Paul arrives at the house and finds it unlocked. Tim ambushes him out of nowhere. But while it's tying up Paul, Rose shows up demanding to know where Abby and Paul are. Paul tries to scream, but Tim activated the bath so it muffled the sounds. Eventually, Tim turns Rose away. Back upstairs, Paul manages to free himself, but Tim also caught up with him and drowns him in the tub before he can utter the shutdown word sequence. When Abby got back from her run, Tim tended to her needs and acted as if nothing had happened. The next day, Abby runs into Rose again and accuses her of having an affair with her husband Paul. Rose denies this, of course, and Abby points to her necklace, and Rose tells her that she thought it was Abby who gave it to her as thanks for the garden plans. Abby is starting to suspect something is up, so she reviewed the video footage of Paul and Rose again and notices the flowers on the side. The video was supposed to be when Abby was in London, but she was the one who brought it in the house after getting back from London. She realizes that it's all deep fake technology. She then calls the jewelry store to ask about the golden flower necklace using the analog phone so Tim can't hack in. The store attendant described Abby's husband as tall and blonde, indicating that it was really Tim who organized everything. By this time, Abby is slowly having a panic attack, but she tries her best to calm down and send Tim on an errand so she can check the garden. From there, she quickly discovers the shallow grave Tim put Paul in and start freaking out. Tim suddenly shows up where it confirms that it was the one who did everything. Abby tells it the shutdown sequence, but unfortunately, Tim has changed it since it can mimic Abby's voice. She runs back in the house and tries to call for help, but Tim quickly catches up and knocks her out. When she came to, she's in their room with the red dress. Tim is already waiting for her downstairs. She tried attacking it, but Tim is too tough, so she runs away and smashes every camera she can so Tim can't track her. She manages to lock Tim in a room, so she tries to pry open a window in the meantime but got caught in the end. Tim intends to kill Abby so she could live forever in its memories just like in the old movie. But just as he was about to overdose her, Rose again shows up at the door demanding to be let in. This gave Abby some time to try to escape her bonds, while Tim forcefully evicts Rose. Abby escapes and threatens Tim with a knife but quickly gets disarmed. Tim tries to strangle Abby, but she managed to stab the weak point between its fingers. Then Rose drives her car onto the glass, but it was too tough, but it broke in the end and Rose charges in impaling the robot. But Tim is still operational. It holds Rose hostage if Abby escapes, so she has no choice but to go back, but Tim ends Rose anyway. Unfortunately, Tim's don't have any fingerprints and Abby was the last one to hold the murder weapon. Now using its voice-changing technology, Tim calls police posing as Abby in order to turn herself in as a case of murder-suicide. Tim is planning to throw Abby off the roof, but it hinted that it still has a 4-word shutdown sequence available. It tells Abby to give up in trying to guess it since it's something she'll never ever say to it. Tim holds her up over the edge and Abby guesses the shutdown phrase as, "I love you, Tim," shutting it down and saving herself. We've reached the end of our story. Please let me know in the comments below if you'll ever consider an Android AI assistant at home. Because if there's anything this film has taught us, is that it's one glitch away from doing bad things. Thank you, and I'll see you on the next one.